Alright, should be making a video and such. Pop out the chat and whatnot, blah 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 blah. See if everything is almost working, which appears to almost be working. Except that part. Oh yeah, you can't see that because the Firefox is now open. So I have to move this up one. Okay. Good enough. Alright, so I guess we'll do various things. Play some two-slit experiment funny videos. In the sense that they're just such bad physics, and just points out how this argument shouldn't even last that long, because anybody with a fair mind should be able to see through the propaganda and the bullshit. But apparently they're not, because they're all wooists and whatnot. So can't do anything straight or reasonable. They just do things that are stupid and crappy and illogical and such. Alright, so some troll account, no doubt. It would seem that to me all you have done is push the woo back a step. So I simplify the process into some sort of mechanical function. Very simple one. Photons, the energy of a photon, as Einstein would sort of describe it, quanta of energy, banging into an electron, giving it a momentum. The new momentum in the new direction creates a new photon in that direction. Not very complicated. And he says this crap. Okay. Now instead of woo being in waves like water, so the woo would be the water. What the hell is your ether? Einstein sort of did concede that, his bent space has to be an ether of some kind. I mean, you have to bend something. You can't bend nothing. Well, anyway, the woo on the surfaces. So there's no woo on the surface. There's little things called electrons and protons. Atoms aren't flat surfaces. They interact with the atmosphere all the time. Lots of action going on the surfaces of any material, and lots of irregularities, frankly. It's not some kind of hard thing. Okay, it's a thing made out of just very few atoms and electrons and protons and lots of empty space, frankly. The transition zone. Okay, how do all the photons end up inside those surfaces? So how does anything travel next to anything? So I could say how does the sun's corona get created by the sun or something? Well, there's a transition between the sun and the empty space, and the transition has a whole bunch of pieces in it. That's how physics works, frankly. Okay. Sounds like spooky action at a distance. No, it doesn't sound like that at all. You're just making this crap up to imply something that wasn't in the video anywhere. It's all just a pile of crap. It doesn't seem spooky at all to me that the sun has a corona. It doesn't seem spooky that the surfaces of materials are not flat, that they're covered in electrons. Electrons are on the outside of atoms. Obviously the surfaces must be covered in electrons. Not very complicated at all. At a distance where the surfaces reach out and grab them as they go by, well, you could call it that in a sense. They're obviously in motion, so that's another theory that was proven like 150 years ago. But you could definitely say it was proven with Einstein, sort of his explanation of Brownian motion. We knew that things moved before Einstein showed up. People knew stuff moved around. And Einstein just provided you a more nuclear explanation for why the big atoms are bouncing around. And they're bouncing around because there's this unevenness in the energy that is hitting things per second or per millisecond or per some small unit of function of objects, that they have this innate heat and just a fact of being an atom. Okay, how do the photons get spewed from the corners? So again, it's not from the corners. It's, I clearly state in the video, surfaces, 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 surfaces. But whatever. Believe whatever you want. I can't stop you from being a lying sack of shit. So go ahead and lie and sack of shit all over the place. Just prove my point again that, humanity can't do anything with any integrity. That all you are is a bunch of fucking liars and trolls, and you can't do any better than this. In defense of your Jesuses. Remember, surfaces are planes. Why would I remember something that's just completely idiotic? It really is idiotic. There's no atomic model that could possibly make a surface into a flat thing. It's not possible. So you have no physicist would agree with you that there's any surface that's a flat plane. Okay. Which are an infinite number of points in 2 dimensions. So again, you say so. That's not physics. That's something you made up. So it's not 4 points, but 4 surfaces. I don't know. Yes, there's 4 surfaces. That's what I stated in the video. It's the 2 slit is the 2 surface experiment. The 4 slit is the 4 surface experiment. I said it hundreds of times. And an infinite number of points on each surface. So it doesn't matter how many points there are. It just matters how many electrons you hit. And the more electrons you hit, the more bending you'll probably do. And that's the way it'll come out. And I didn't say otherwise. And you're just a lying sack of shit. So fuck off. Eek, people. So this Merker guy can't stay on the subject to save his fucking life. I really am getting quite sick of him. So this is the 2 slit, and it says right in the title of the video, I talked about 2 slit experiments, and he puts this stupid fucking piece of shit comment on where he wants to argue a bunch of other crap, okay, physics. Regarding the sun, so fuck you, what do you know about it? 4 hydrogen atoms condense into 1 helium nucleus. So again, says you, why would I even try to condense, why would I even make a nucleus, frankly? Okay, I mean, you can say there are only, helium nucleuses in the sun? You're playing games here, okay, with distinctions. Obviously, to make an atom, all you gotta do is add some electrons, and electrons are pretty easy to add to anything. The helium nucleus is lighter than the 4 hydrogen atoms, yes, by 2 electrons, okay, because the neutrons, as has already been proven by regular science, is just an electron and a proton. And let's not pretend there's an anti-neutrino. Let's just leave that piece of baby slobber out of the conversation. It adds up to basically being a proton and an electron. That's what a neutron is. So if you just add up the protons and the electrons and the protons, the 4 hydrogens have 8, and the helium nucleus has 6, and all you're missing are 2 electrons. No big deal. Obviously, the energy, okay, that the fusion reaction creates are the leftover parts that have to be ejected. And they're ejected at a substantial frickin' momentum. Okay, where did the rest of the mass go? 2 electrons. Question mark. It was converted into pure energy. Fuck you. There's absolutely no evidence that you can convert matter, electrons and protons, into pure energy, whatever the fuck that would be, versus the unpure energy. I'm just so sick of this shit. I mean, could you speak a grown-up language? Pure energy? Fusion is basically free energy. Fuck you. It's obviously taking advantage again of the fact that there's substantial energy in all atomic nucleuses. So a hydrogen atom has a bunch of energy stored in it, in the sense of the pressure that has been created to push the electron and the proton into a configuration. Now, obviously, hydrogen 2 is the form of hydrogen that really survives. So it's a molecular hydrogen, so it's got 2 protons and 2 electrons. A little bit more complicated in terms of recognizing there could be a lot of tension between the protons and the electrons. They're repelling each other, and they're attracted to their opposites, and that arrangement of charge is what's storing the energy in the atomic structure. And you could understand that if you took a hammer and smashed that obviously the springs, okay, go boing, and there's energy released, where mass is converted into pure energy. So he says it again. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Okay, I don't have to believe that. You don't have any evidence for any of this shit. You're just mouthing their rhetoric, okay, with no evidence, nothing. You're just sitting there telling me what I must believe. Fuck you. I don't have to believe in any of that crap. Alright, so I did reply. It didn't post the first time. My own replies don't post, which is really irritating. And I pointed out, this is way off subject. Matter, electrons, protons are not converted into energy. They are bound and repel based on their interaction with an energetic force. The bits of force carry the energy, and the electron and proton push and are pushed by the speed of light force. 4 hydrogen atoms has 4 electrons and 4 protons, and helium nucleus is really 4 protons and 2 electrons. The ejected 2 electrons account for the mass differential, and the ejecting force is the energy released. So, but whatever. I don't really, I make the video, it's on a specific subject. You want to talk about some other kind of crap, and you want to talk about it without any references, any proof, anything. I just have to keep debunking every Muslim theory, every wacky theory you people can come up with. Every pile of shit, okay, for which you have no evidence. So, fuck you, okay? Go cuddle with Piro. Stay out of my face, or you're just going to get blocked because you keep doing this, and I'm tired of it. You're just a subject-changing wimp who can't stay on the subject and argue the facts that have been presented to you. The facts are there is no evidence of any wave-particle duality. The fact is, if they accurately describe the 2-slit experiment, it doesn't say anything like there has to be entanglement, and there has to be superposition, there has to be all this crap. Alright, it's all a big fat fucking fairy story, and the fact that you, as a lying sack of shit, can't admit that that evidence sucks, that their evidence absolutely sucks, just proves you don't have enough integrity to have a conversation about the truth. Fucker. Alright. So moving on. I guess they're all so bad. It's just so bad. Life on this planet is just dismal. Alright, I guess this Dispar douche has posted a video of sorts. Doesn't say anything. I won't play it because it's too fucking boring and stupid. Is this the right one? 12 minutes. No. That's an old video. Free energy sounds like him. Alright, free energy debate. How is momentum conserved? I don't know, actually. So it's just more crap. So he says in the comments section that he found some paper. It's not some paper. It's completely unreferenced, unsourced crap. The guy basically is saying, I've read a textbook on physics and it sort of says this. Alright, so as I've pointed out, there has to be some agreement that these are different experiments, okay? So, I've tried to point out that, you really do have to isolate what you're talking about, or there's no point in talking about it. There's no conversation if you don't acknowledge the actual physical circumstances that exist. So I pointed out they have this word elastic for a kind of exchange, okay, where they don't stick together, okay? Somehow the energy isn't combined. But we know it comes in two way different forms, okay? So you have this Newton's cradle thing where you have a rock-hard thing, okay? Hard as a rock, hit something hard as a rock, all right? And it's not like tennis balls, they're not doing the bouncy thing where they're deforming and then reforming it back into a shape. All right, so we know that's not the reason why this interaction takes place. And the other thing we know is that steel, these objects made out of steel, the fact is that the energy does travel through them at the speed of sound, okay, in the material. So whatever the speed of sound is, that's how any deformation in the shape is going to take place. So it's going to be an incredibly slow compression, if there was any such thing. And that basically all you're doing is exchanging. You're just saying that this energy exchange takes place beyond human perception in terms of its speed. That is, this action here, basically the force just goes straight from this ball right into the other ball, okay, if they're equal masses. And I'd argue if they're unequal masses, then the problem is this can't go the same speed. And so obviously the speed has to be converted to a lower speed for this one to go and take off from this one, that is, take the energy. And so the real point is that there's what's really happening inside of the heavier object. You hit a heavier object, it has to bounce around in here for a while before it figures out it can go at some new speed. It has to convert it into a lower speed. Then the other scenario you have are when you're colliding two very flexible things. So this guy does all his analysis based on a big tennis ball and a small tennis ball. Okay, these are objects that do deform, that are basically just springs. You could just understand them as spring hitting spring. All right, what's going to happen is the spring is going to compress, okay, as the pressure increases, okay, until it reaches the maximum pressure. You know, the two are hitting each other, the pressure builds, the springs are compressing, and then the springs are going to release the energy they have stored. And they're, you know, because they're springs, they're more likely, okay, to release it, apportion it fairly. So even though this one brought all the energy in, both of them are going to get energy out. Okay, so that's going to be the difference. And so one's going to go off this way because it's going to get pushed that way, and this one's going to get pushed that way, and you're essentially creating an explosion between the two objects. So you compress the energy, turn it into an explosive, and then release the energy. So these are very different experiments, okay? They're both called elastic. They're both considered almost the same thing, blah, 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 blah. It's just stupid to say, oh, we have a formula that does both of these things, and we have this and we have that. It's just, again, it's stupid, all right? It's just stupid to say that you have condensed all of this down to some, you know, W equals 4 squiggly, squiggly, upside down, squiggly, divide by 4. No, you haven't done that, okay? They haven't done that. And they certainly haven't done it where they have experimentally demonstrated any of it to be true. They're just telling it takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. We'll just tell you that for 350 years, but we'll never show you. So, again, the argument is, show me, okay? It doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way. Momentum does have to be conserved. It is a rule, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to be able to violate it with your little magical frames or some other kind of crap. So, again, I just say a reasonable person understands the argument just can't be founded on these wrong axioms that they're going to use some word for an experiment and say that word is what it is when that word just doesn't cover it. There's more to it than the stupid word elastic. All right. Doesn't mean anything real. Ugh. Okay. So, I just thought I would illustrate a way of understanding too, okay, is that the thing we do know is if I have a really big thing, so I drew all of this already, and I throw a small thing at it, a tennis ball. But let's say tennis balls are only, 75% efficient. So let's use a super ball or something we know is much more elastic or much more conservative of the energy. A better spring. So we're just throwing the spring at the wall. Okay, and the wall doesn't move. Well, we know we get back on 97%, let's just say for fun, of the energy, and it's returned in the opposite direction. So essentially we changed the direction and it didn't really cost this thing anything, okay, because the spring did the work. Okay, it went in this way, okay, and it came out this way, and everything's fine. We assume we lose a little bit of the energy. It makes perfectly good sense that some of the energy got lost vibrating this or doing something to this. Okay, so I go to the next step, which would be that I put this on wheels. Okay, so now we can make it a little smaller too. It doesn't have to be the same weight. All right, and the idea is now I throw the same thing at the same speed at it, And I know I'm not going to get 97% back because we know this time this one's going to keep some of it. So this is going to move really slowly. I mean, it's going to be S-L-O-W. It's going to be slow. And this is still the same speed going in, and I'm going to get, well, we could just guess at a number. You know, I'm going to get what, let's say 76% of the energy back. So the reflection will be less, all right, because some of the energy went into this, moving this slowly. So I still conserve the momentum. That is, if I figure out the momentum of this, okay, and I add it to whatever this momentum I get back as a reflection, it's still going to be 100% of the momentum. All right, but it's a big difference. And then when we finally get the cart to be the same size as the ball, right? So now we have the same mass here, okay, as we have in the ball we're throwing, okay. Then we're going to get this circumstance where 100% of the momentum, the energy, the movement goes into that, and this goes to zero, and I get no reflection. So no reflection. Nothing comes back, okay. And now I go for lighter objects. Now I'm saying that this, the thing I'm going to hit, is now lighter than, okay, the ball. Now the ball's bigger mass than the cart is, and now I know they're both going to end up going this way. That some of the energy is going to go into the cart. The velocity will end up going up as this velocity goes down, and the fact is there'll be a point where the cart is actually going faster, all right, a little bit faster, all right, then the ball will be going in the same direction, so the cart will move away from the ball, because, yeah, this one gave this one the speed, and when it gave that little push, it went slower at the same time, and so this one, there's a final push where these two leave each other, and this one basically has a little bit more speed than this one has, and that's how they'll interact. So this is the progression. So you have this midpoint where you do this 100% transfer, and then it happens opposite this way. The two things both go the same direction, and in this case, everything in this case, you have one coming back as a reflection and one putting the energy in, and so you put more energy in, all right, and as you make the thing heavier and heavier, less and less energy goes into the object, and more gets reflected back. So I would argue that that's a fair, accurate description of what the experimental evidence shows, and again, it doesn't show any problems for momentum at all. Momentum conservation is perfectly understandable. What's not understandable is notions that I lost half the energy somewhere, or that I gained twice the energy because I moved a lighter, because I convert it to a slower thing, I lose energy. I convert it into a lighter thing, I gain energy. That didn't happen. All right. It's probably, I mean, I don't really want to get bogged down in that subject. That doesn't really matter what I get bogged down in. It's all idiotic. So no comments really. I mean, just nothing useful at all. John Walker has his own theory, and it's something to do with relativity, and I say fuck that. There's no point. Thank you, Desvar. I think something is changing in the debate, although being just a small detail for some. The 666 and as for M2 after the collision with respect to the center of mass is a big difference with the 13.33. Who knows what the fuck. Yeah, I'm not going to pay any attention. All right, and this was the Farley troll, and he doesn't. It seems to me he just has no understanding at all of what's going on. He has things start them in the opposite direction. Blah 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 blah. It doesn't have anything to do with getting anywhere close to recognizing that these collisions aren't about denting objects like they're springs, and then having the energy released. Okay, you're not throwing tennis ball at tennis ball material, which obviously would be a different experiment. I mean, the more rubbery I make this surface, right? So let's say this is already a spring and I make this out of a spring. Well, yeah, then I'm making it even more complicated because all the energy is going to be stored in the springs first, and then the springs are going to release it, and so I'm going to get even a different number. So if I make this out of an elastic material, I'm going to get a different number. Yeah, you can't evade that fact, that they're all different circumstances, different materials. The speed of the sound in the material is different. The force will be communicating at a different speed. They'll have more or less time for there to be a conversion of the speed. So it all makes a difference. Blah, 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 blah. But what you're not going to be able to do is show a physical experiment where you don't conserve momentum, because it's elemental to the function of the universe, frankly, and you're not going to break it with your wooey, silly religion, frankly. All right, so we'll go to a couple of links that were sent to me that are kind of funny. So yeah, we'll play those. Two slit kind of stuff. Lots of room to point out just, wow, they just lie, and then they lie, and then they lie, and then they lie, and they just never stop lying. Alright, so this is some kind of TikTok video, blah, 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 blah. We'll see if we have enough volume.
One of the most famous experiments in the history of physics.
Okay, that's probably too much volume, I would guess. Alright, try again.
The experiment of Thomas Young, the double-slit experiment. It was a real coup in physics and led many scientists into the study of quantum mechanics.
So this is an admission that one of those girl physicists, Toby or whatever her name is, she admits, that this intrigued her as a youth, and she found it fascinating, and so they get seduced by the woo, all right, and she fell for all this Dr. Quantum stuff. So this guy's just really stole images from different moronic videos and put them together, and then put this voice over it, and so it's all really just plagiarized material.
If you throw solid balls at a shield,
that's Dr. Quantum video,
with a slit cut into it, a single diffuse strip designating the
So we know that doesn't even happen. Obviously, some of them do hit the surface. They do bounce off at an angle. You do get scatter going out in different directions, blah, 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 blah. But let's forget about facts again.
Strike points will appear on the screen behind the shield. If there
So, nothing like light at all. So let's just point out, yes, light doesn't do that. A single opening creates a bunch of dispersion, okay, of the light into a fringe pattern. So single slits do create diffuse patterns. You don't need a second slit, okay? The single slit does it all by itself in light. Let's understand.
Are two slits in the shield, then there will be two strips.
1 millimeter apart. So again, in the case of light, the projection on the screen is spreading. Well, guess what? The slits don't spread the light. Okay, that's what the surfaces are doing. That's what the waves are supposed to be doing, is dispersing. So the actual patterns would be as close as they are to start with. And in the case of light, that's less than a millimeter of difference between the two. And at the target, that less than a millimeter will be like seeing a millimeter in a foot. Okay, it'd be very hard to see it. They'd end up right on top of each other. One of them just a little tiny difference than the other one.
But how will waves behave if aimed at the shield? They will pass through the slot and spread out.
There you go. Nothing like light at all. Okay, the light is creating, obviously, okay, kind of obviously, it's not just spreading out and landing on the surface. There has to be something to cause interference and constructive and destructive events, and clearly this drawing has no constructive and destructive events in it. It doesn't happen. So water waves doesn't look like in the single slit. Light and water don't do the same thing in the single slit. That's the clear point here, right? And they're implying something else, that somehow this is all consistent theory, when clearly it's not consistent at all. There's no mechanism for having two waves, but somehow there has to be two waves in the single slit. So what do? What's the distance in the math? The distance in the math is the distance between the two surfaces, basically acknowledging those are my 2 point sources. Those are the 2 places I'm going to compare. So it's like essentially their math just says a single slit is really 2 surfaces. It's 2 points. And now I'll create a wave at each one of those points and compare those 2 waves. So they create the double slit, math by just acknowledging the distance between the surfaces is what's causing the effect. So they're basically acknowledging, yes, the effect is being caused by the surfaces. But they won't say the words.
The greatest impact of the waves will be in the line of the slit, as in the case with the balls.
So more bullshit. There's absolutely no greatest impact of the wave. The wave is supposed to be even all the way around. That's wave theory. This wave isn't supposed to be much, much weaker and weaker and weaker and all that kind of crap. So that's just more bullshit. It doesn't turn out that way. That's not how waves are hitting the surfaces. They're much harder here and then they're weak, weak, weak. No, there's no hard center beam of wave. So again, it's just a complete lie. I mean, the physical water does not do what he just drew here. It does not make more impact here. Obviously like twice as much or 10 times as much or 100 times as much. No, there is a gradient. I mean, I would argue that, yes, the further the wave travels, the weaker it gets, but we know that doesn't happen to photons. But let's just say it did happen. Then we'd have a graduation across this screen that would be much wider. There wouldn't be any central maxima. There wouldn't even be any bright spot in the center. It's complete nonsense. It doesn't physically happen.
But if you add a second slit, everything changes. A number of alternating interference strips will appear on.
So now you have 2 waves. Okay, let's understand. For water, the 2 slit means now you do have some way to make 2 waves. You had no way to make 2 waves in the single slit. Now you have a way of making 2 waves from 2 different locations, and you compare those 2 different locations. So you have a different experiment now. Now I clearly point out it's the 4 surface experiment now, right? Because now you have 2 surfaces really close to each other and you have surfaces that are very far from each other. Not that complicated again.
The projection screen. And when we shine light on the 2 strips.
So they show it this way, and that's not the right pattern and it's not the right distances. So the double slit pattern in light photons creates the envelope pattern. You end up with 2 patterns superimposed on top of each other, just a fact. Okay, so this is basically just a single slit pattern in the sense this is a 2 wave pattern. You need a 4 wave pattern to create the actual double slit pattern. So again, just a big, fat, stupid, moronic, ignorant lie that all you propagandists defend.
This is exactly.
You don't fight any of this. Nobody's fighting it. Nobody's stopping it. So all this propaganda will keep being spewed because none of you will fight any of this crap physics.
What happens. And this is how Mr. Young proved the wave.
So he didn't prove any wave theory. His math didn't even work. It doesn't create the right pattern. It's absolute complete nonsense. Obviously this is from a, what's that guy's, Green, a Brian Green video. So he's just stolen clips from other people's videos, put them in this video and put this moronic narrative on it, but it's the same narrative that they talk, which I'll show in the next video. That's what the talking heads talk, is this absolute nonsense.
Theory of light. If light were corpuscular, like a particle, instead of wave-like, it would behave like the balls and the...
No, it wouldn't, and the fact is you're not really appreciating that it's atomic theory. Okay, you're talking about subatomic nuclear bits. You're talking about the smallest things in the universe. You really shouldn't talk about them like, there's a solid surface, that kind of crap. When you know surfaces are made out of atoms jiggling.
Green would show 2 strips of light corresponding to the 2 slits.
So again, you wouldn't see them because they're only a millimeter apart, blah, blah, blah. They would be right on top of each other with just a little bit of phase difference. The little bit, one would overlap the other one just a little tiny bit. That's all. So you just see one. That's the actual facts.
That didn't happen.
Nothing you state happens in the real world.
Later, it turned out that electrons and protons behave exactly.
So this is more bullshit. They behave exactly the same. The experiments aren't anything like the same experiment. They do not do this whatever shooting baseballs through two slit kind of crap. Okay. It doesn't happen. Isn't the experiment is a big fat lie.
The same way, showing that they also seem to exist as waves and not as points.
So more baby talk. I mean, there's absolutely no evidence they seem to exist as waves and not points. They always land as points. They're hard objects, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. We can count them. We can keep track of them. We can, dump them onto a surface and get exactly the same number off the surface. I mean, this is all just such a bunch of pile of wooey crap.
There was one assumption that perhaps light and the others were particles and that somehow the particles bumped into each other. And
you say the waves bump into each other, which is just as unrealistic in the sense that we can't bang photons into photons, we can't bang photons into gravity, we can't bang anything into anything. Any of this stuff moving the speed of light does not bang into the stuff that's moving the speed of light, just a fact. And you still don't have any experimental evidence for that, just like you don't have any evidence that it takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. You don't have any evidence you can bang a force into a force.
Flew apart. So, to test this, physicists decided to shoot electrons.
So again, physicists decided to do something that they have no evidence of. You can't play the video of it because it didn't actually happen, and what they actually did was some crappy experiment that really wasn't the experiment they claimed it to be, just like Veritasium. He got 8-10 million views for a stupid photon experiment where he claims something, but he can't claim it with any credibility because obviously he distorted and changed the experiment to force the results to happen, and he changed it in exactly the way you would change it if you wanted to make the likelihood of more than one photon being in the experiment more likely. So he did exactly what you don't want to do to the experiment to change it, because it clearly shows you're just biasing in the wrong direction. You're biasing in the direction you don't want to go.
Electrons at the target one by one, single file.
Alright, so they got no single file photon. They have no evidence that they have any such experiment, that they have ever had any single photon experiment, because they don't even know what a photon is, frankly, and they obviously can't see them, and they can't see how many are in the experiment or any of that bullshit, so this is all just more lies.
What do you think happened? The strangest thing imaginable.
The strangest thing. I mean, no, I think the stranger things are imaginable, but whatever. You have a very dull imagination if this is what you call strange.
Interference pattern still appeared on the screen. It seemed that the single electron somehow divided into...
So again, more horseshit. Electrons don't fly out of a random gun and then go into the slit experiment. This is done inside an electron microscope. This experiment usually using the same kind of mechanisms. These are aimed electrons. These are not random electrons. So again, the whole thing is a big lie. This isn't the same experiment. It's a very different experiment. And it's just a lie to say they're doing the same thing. They sent electrons through no, they didn't do any of this crap. Just lies.
2 waves passed through both slits, then interfered with themselves. Impossible. So physicists tried to find out through which gap the electron actually...
So this is more lying about their detector experiments and all of the other crap, which they didn't do. Big fat lie.
Passes. They installed measuring instruments to check this. Another seeming impossibility.
So this is right out of the Dr. Quantum. The eyeball is the Dr. Quantum video. Just more lies about what physical, actual experiments have been conducted. This experiment has not been conducted. Didn't happen. It's just a lie.
Occurred. The electrons stopped behaving like waves and began acting like particles, and left a trace on the screen of 2 distinct strips with no interference. They had to admit something completely mind-blowing, that the fact of our observation
So observation doesn't mean anything. Observation means we bounce photons off something and see what the reflections are, how fast we get the reflections back. There's no such thing as observation in any other way than interference. You have to bang into something to observe it. You have to throw something at it. You have to view it through some physical mechanism. Its own excretions won't be enough. You can't see its heat signature, blah, 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 blah. lots of explanations about why we can't see these very tiny things, and why we certainly can't see them without completely destroying whatever there is they're doing. We're going to completely change what they're doing, because the force we have to hit them with to see them is much greater than the force that actually moves them.
Measurement destroyed the wave function of the photons, causing them to become like points, corpuscular. The electron, under the influence of observation, behaved like a particle.
Okay, so again, observation doesn't mean anything. Gravity right now is observing you, okay? It's a force, it's acting on you. There's a consequence to everything around you in terms of you absorbing the gravitational force. You change the universe by doing that. So we're being observed by every single force that interacts with us technically. And the only difference is their observer has a piece of photo paper. It takes a picture, where the other observations, nobody's recording the picture. So because the tape machine isn't on, somehow the sound doesn't hit the microphone. Of course the sound hits the microphone. Of course the events all take place. Whether the tape machine, whether the microphone is connected to a tape recorder or not is totally irrelevant. Alright, it's the energy in the system. Okay, and the fact is, there's no place you can go in this universe where you're going to escape being watched, so to speak, to be measured by the universe. The universe is constantly measuring you. You can't be in some superposition where you can fool any part of the universe into thinking you're in two places at once because I can't see you. Bullshit. So it's just woo, made up religion.
Flying through one slit and not through two. Interpretations. Well, it certainly looks like the work of a game engine, doesn't it?
Oh, brother. So this is the whatever. Yeah, there's a computer running the universe. That's our new religion. I mean, this is as bad as Totem Pole. This is Bear God, or, Frog God, or Tadpole God. I mean, they're just making anything they can look at, and they just make that into God. This is so pathetic. And you people sit there and embrace this science. Fuck you people.
This might make you think that our world is running like a game on a computer. The computer's power is not enough to calculate the motion of each and every particle, so it uses a simplified...
Why isn't that? Why? What's the big deal? Why are you limiting its power? Maybe it's got a bazillion little ant brains doing all the calculations. I'm sure a bazillion ants can figure it out.
Model, and applies precise calculations only if an observer needs to look at the particle, so as not to break the illusion of the reality.
Oh, yeah, right. God. These are all people with smelly assholes thinking the universe was invented by a computer. Fucking idiots. Alright, so now we have a Degrassi Tyson, and I didn't think he did the same bullshit, but apparently he did in his little TV show. Ugh, fuck. God, I just hate this planet. Just hate it here. Let's see if there's any commenters. I don't think there are. They're all a bunch of jackasses anyway. No, there's nothing. Okay. Fuck. Hit the play button, Gary. Okay, I'll hit the button.
Scientists, in their never-ending fascination with light, set out to devise ways of isolating smaller and smaller units of it. It proved to be the passageway through the looking glass. It was the crossing of a...
Oh, this little magical talk. Oh, this is so pathetic. So fucking pathetic.
threshold into a wonderland where the known rules of physics do not apply.
So again, more bullshit. Okay, no reason to believe any of this crap and these silly animations. This is a photon. It has like flame going this way and a wobble going this way and some other thingy pointy thing this way. I don't know what the fuck this is. But this is your this is religion. This is just a little this is what the Holy Ghost looks like. Look how cool the Holy Ghost is.
For the first time, they were able to isolate the tiniest unit of light.
Alright, so they haven't done any of this, isolating anything. They didn't do anything for the first time. They know this is just all fucking goddamn woo.
a single photon. And to perform Young's double-slit experiment on a whole new level, tracing its precise path either through the right slit.
So now he's saying that they traced a photon through the slits, so they could somehow aim the photon into the right slit or something. So he's talking vaguely about some experiment that I've never seen, certainly isn't in a YouTube video anywhere. So where was this experiment done? When was this experiment done? What is this guy talking about, this woo he's making up?
With a left slit. We'll pull over to the side of the road for the best possible view of which slit, the right or the left, the photon passes through to get to the far wall.
So again, this is all just made up. This is not a real experiment.
Left slit, right slit, another right slit, left slit. If we watch them all day long, the pattern would be random. About half would go through either slit.
Yeah, nobody's contending anything different than that, clearly. And again, to make the double slit pattern a real double slit pattern, obviously the pattern's going to have the envelope pattern. So all he's called, again, using is the two source experiment. So he's again reduced a double slit experiment into a single slit pattern. And they call that grown-up physics. So they're denying the very existence of the double slit real pattern because they can't explain any feature of it at all. They can't explain the double maxima. They can't explain the envelope pattern. They have no explanation for those events, and they're fundamentally they're just screaming that's what the pattern's all about.
Wait a second. Where are the waves?
So this is scientific proof that consciousness and observation determines reality. So again, these are religious arguments. This isn't science. This is religion.
Young's interference pattern. This is where the weird begins.
Alright, so we know too that these are infinitesimally small slits in infinitesimally small positions. How could you possibly see two bars when the screen can't make two bars spread? That light isn't spreading. The light that goes through the slits isn't spreading. So it's just going to be this tiny, tiny little distance from each other. You wouldn't be able to see the difference in the two bars because they'd be right on top of each other. So again, more canarding. Lies. Obviously, another indication the experiment was never done because they can't even figure out that simple truth.
I cannot explain to you what you're about to see. That's because no one on Earth understands it yet.
I mean, just amazing gooey, pooey, wooey, baby talk shit.
If you can't live with that, then you're not going to be happy with what lies up ahead.
That's right. You're all full of shit. It's just a goddamn religion, and I'm not fucking happy. I'm not happy that smart people are talking this kind of shit based on no fucking real evidence. You still, after 350 years, haven't demonstrated it takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. Show me, fucker.
On the smallest possible scale that we've ever discovered, the quantum universe, the mere act of observation changes reality.
So again, observation doesn't mean anything. We observe by throwing photons at it and seeing the reflection. Lots of things are throwing energy at something. Right now I'm being observed by your cell phone. Okay, it does hit me, little bits of it. It's just a fact. I'm being observed all the time by all kinds of energy. It's just silly to say somehow my electrons and protons know when you're really looking. And when you don't really look, I can do all kinds of funny stuff. Ha 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 ha.
Okay, photons, keep on coming. This time, we promise not to look.
I mean, I can't believe that he is doing this. I mean, this is a fable, okay? It's just a known fact that this is a fable, okay? This experiment wasn't done. This is a fable.
going to believe this, but we can change the pattern on the far wall simply by not watching which slit the photons pass through. I know it sounds crazy, but in every...
No, it sounds moronic. It's idiotic. Oh, I just, I tape recorded it, but I didn't listen to the tape, and it isn't until I listen to the tape, and then I'll change what happened 6 years ago, because I'll listen to the tape now. I mean, it's just so fucking stupid. God damn it. Oh. And you people don't understand why I hate your guts? I mean, that you would sit there and fucking defend this crap?
Every trial ever conducted, the outcome depends on whether or not
every
the
trial
experiment...
we've ever conducted, which is 0. So in all our trials, 0, they all came out exactly the same. So we did a billion zeros, not at all. They were all virtual experiments, and all the virtual experiments came out exactly the same. It's just... Fuck. How did I end up on this lying sack of shit planet?
was observed.
Alright, so that's just so pathetic. Fuck. I can't believe they paid him real money. They produced this stupid, whatever you want to call it, this just such faggoty physics. I mean, it's so poofy, girly, wooey. Ew. I mean, it's just like a porn video or something. They're just all gooey over all of it. Ooh, it's so magical. Oh, fuck. This is physics. Shit. Alright. So, that's probably all enough. If no one's got anything to say, that'll be just fine. I'll get the fuck out of here. God, I can't stand it. It's just insufferable to have to fucking exist and breathe the same air as you shit for brains. So there's 14 of you. You should be able to come. Oh, there is some crap. Okay, so let's see what kind of crap they've posted. RT Truth. Let's see. Tyson and Kaku finally did a podcast together. Oh, well, I'm sure they just talked about how great each other is. String theory, neutrinos, and wormholes were discussed. Yeah, so isn't that just great? Well, look, I'm pretty sure deGrasse Tyson doesn't have much use for string theory, so he probably said something like, well, I don't quite get it, or I don't think you got an answer, or, blah, blah, blah. But yes, neutrinos, they've all accepted neutrinos, for no good reason. Again, there's no evidence. And wormholes are just, again, that's just such crayon. This is finger painting. Physics for finger painters. This isn't real. Let's see, I've got Kakaku and Sean Carroll's books. It makes for great entertainment. Well, you're entertained by some weird ass shit, I'm going to tell you, because I can't even watch Sean Carroll's videos anymore. I mean, it's all this minutia. He just keeps going deeper and deeper into, calculations and horse shit that, it doesn't have any connection to reality. I mean, you solve this entanglement problem, the fact that we're being photographed all the time, so that's the measurement problem. He solves it by saying there's a new universe created every single time a bit of energy hits an electron or a proton, which is an insane number of universes. I mean, you can't even, it's an incalculable number. I mean, it's just, how can that make sense to people? They are making money off people's ignorance. Well, regardless, they're making a minor amount, though. Obviously, the people are the ones buying the books, okay? The people are the ones who are generating this problem. It's the fact that the intellectuals won't sit there and separate themselves from fucking Homer Simpson. Homer Simpson buys this kind of crap. Somebody with a brain shouldn't be buying it. It's not Homer Simpsons who are financing this bad physics. It's a bunch of intellectuals buying these fucking shit books. Again, Homer Simpson couldn't even read Sean Carroll's books. They're so boring and stale and dull. At this point, they should be writing for Star Trek. No, Star Trek made so much more sense than this shit. Well, the first Star Trek. Come on. I mean, obviously, faster than light travel is not possible. We couldn't do any of that galactic stuff. But, I mean, look, all the themes in Star Trek were basically, pretty materialistic. Kakaku gets paid basically making fairy tales about reality. Okay, so these are all unnecessary. I don't need to know all this. I don't think anybody needs to know all this crap. Obviously, he's always been a wooicist. Okay, he's believed in the Diracian fake phony world since the beginning. So that's all part of the crap he bought into. The Einstein Diracian anti-particle bent fabric ether thingy. And Einstein hated the quantum mechanics. Again, Einstein really has no right to, okay, I would argue in some sense, when his own theory was pretty fucking goddamn incomplete, as the word goes. Okay, this idea of his stupid fabric space thing, his bent geodesic in 3 dimensions that just turns into a vacuum cleaner. So a vacuum cleaner, a fan, okay, that only blows one way. It doesn't suck, it just blows. Or it sucks and it doesn't blow. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's a stupid fucking goddamn. It's a non-explanation for a function. And it's not even a mechanically sensible non-explanation. Okay. Kakaku loves quantum mechanics and computing. Just ironic. Well, you say he understands something about computing? I don't think he understands anything about computing. But whatever. There's nothing ironic. This is what physics is. So again, the irony is that I'm arguing against this crap, and everyone seems to just want to defend the crap. And the crap started long before these guys showed up, and it started long before Einstein showed up. Einstein didn't invent mv squared. Okay, Einstein didn't invent it's vehicles. I mean, it's 1801. The Young wave experiment is 1801. Come on. The physics was broken long before these assholes showed up. They just broke it a lot more. I mean, they took a dented car and ruined it. They want to make the universe magical or something. Well, they certainly want to make it more interesting. Yes, they want to take out the determinism. They want to, there's things they're running from. The determinism, the fact that it is a bug planet, basically, robotic bugs, even worse. And we're just the biggest, ugliest, most stupid fucking bug of them all. There's lots of places you're going to go if you realistically understand how the universe is just energy exchanges through a process, and it just, all the complexity is very ordered and happens over very long periods of time. But yeah, I don't know what you can't say they're making the universe more hopeful, because I don't see how entangled the photons makes it more like kinder or something. But it certainly does make it more interesting, right? Because then they have to figure out, what color dresses are the quantum particles wearing, and what's the skirt line, and blah 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 blah. So they'll have a whole bunch of things to worry about. Someone who I'm in contact with says the way you speak about Einstein makes you polarizing. And again, I don't care. Frankly. I mean, it's just the truth. I mean, as much as there's parts of Einstein, just like Feynman, I like. Okay? But the fact is, again, how can he talk about their spooky action when he proposes a spooky action theory? Okay? I mean, bent space is spooky action. Fuck. Anyway. Bugs make some sense than Tyson. Yeah, well. I'm glad to see you can make some differentiation, Merker guy. You seem to be defending all of the classic crap. I mean, you just keep posting comments defending classic statements by classic physics as if this is the source of reality. So I don't understand how you make your distinction. So how do you know Tyson is full of shit, but you don't think Sean Carroll's full of shit, or you don't think Lewin is full of shit? With his free momentum experiment. How about his 2 voltages in the same location experiment? Do you really think there can be 2 voltages in the same place at the same time? You think that's really possible? He does. You should be able to pick apart the man's flaws. I'm just trying to explain physics, okay? I'm saying there's this simple way to look at the physical universe, and you can do it in this particle quantum way, where you can just say, yes, it's an elemental universe made out of elemental bits, and there's only so many of them. Electrons, protons, force, done. I mean, it's not that much going on. 2 plus 2 plus 2 physics. So I'm just trying to explain that to you. Now I have to explain why they are rejecting it, why they wouldn't even go there, why it didn't occur to them, why they didn't even think of it, and why through that process they didn't even notice the huge glaring lies that they're speaking about the young double slit experiment. Well, nobody paid any attention to the fact that he's using 2 waves to describe a complex pattern that has 2 different elements in it. The double slit pattern is not the single slit pattern. We can tell the difference between the 2 patterns. They look distinctly different. Why is he describing with 2 slits the single slit pattern? What's the point in doing that? Why are you using 2 slits to create the single slit pattern? That should have occurred to somebody to ask the question. Why are they doing that? Why are they using 2 slits to create the single slit pattern? Why is there that infinitesimally small slit rule? Why do they have that rule? Oh, that's right, because they can't explain the real pattern. Their theory fails completely to explain the real double slit pattern. That's why. And then you have to say, well, then why are they liars? Because they got to know that. They got to know that there's 400 times better resolution from space, and they probably should be doing the Eddington experiment from space because it only takes 5 minutes. It's a 5-minute experiment for an average camera in space. I mean, it's just a nothing experiment almost. Maybe they should do that one. That should have occurred to some, if they were at all honest, that should have occurred to them that, yes, why haven't we done that simple experiment from space? It's so much simpler and it's so much better. 400 times better resolution. It's a 400 times more credible experiment from space. 400 times. And yet they never even attempted it? Yes, well, we're not talking about most people. We're talking about people who are interested in physics and have spent some time watching these documentaries or watching this kind of stuff and paying some attention and saying, oh, did they really show me any evidence? Or did they just talk the talk and they didn't walk any walk? I'm not really arguing with people that are, humming tunes as they walk down the sidewalk. Okay, these aren't the people I'm really trying to talk to. I'm trying to talk to the people that have spent their whole life, really thinking about things mechanically and understanding why the table is bending because they have an elephant sitting on it. Some kind of people who are doing real thinking about their life. People considering, well, how can I improve my gas mileage? Well, I guess I better not go 60 miles an hour. The notation doesn't matter. The notation just has to do with whether you say D, a triangle symbol for a change, or use a D versus a T. It's still and then the squiggly little line for integral, for infinitely large mathematical problem. So even the whole idea of what integration means, it just means how many ways, how generalistic are you going to make your guess. So you're going to do an estimate, and so you could sample 100, or you could sample 10, or you could sample 3. Okay, so you can have a choice about how specific your answer is going to be. If you sample 100 things, you're going to get a better answer, a more precise answer than if you only sample 3. All right, so those are just nothing. I mean, the very fact that they even point out that, oh, we like Leibniz's handwriting more than Newton's. Well, who cares? I mean, it's just stupid to worry about that notation crap. It's such an irrelevancy. I mean, that's like saying in the Schrodinger equation, well, he shouldn't have used the forky symbol. He should have used, whatever, the, floppy elephant ear symbol, He should have used some other symbol in his formula for the infinite knowledge. This is the symbol for infinite knowledge, the forky thing. Just go on the highway and you'll find out how much fuel you save compared to city driving. Yeah, well, that has to do with braking, but regardless, you'll still find out that it's obviously going to be doubtful whether you'll use more energy per mile per hour, and certainly not 4 times. So yes, it's doubtful that you'll use twice the energy. You'll use something less than twice the energy to go twice as fast. But it certainly won't be anywhere near 3 or 4 times. That's the irony. It'll be so far away from the correct answer. It's on the wrong side of the zero. It's so far away from the right answer. And that's why the experiment hasn't been done. It's because they would have no way of explaining how it didn't work. That's why we don't have the Eddington experiment video. They really could videotape it, It's really that they have that much of an advantage in space. They could actually videotape it. And we don't have that videotape. Because you really don't have to rely on objects that are so dim that you have to use time exposures to see the object. I mean, we have good enough telescopic instrumentality up there that they could just videotape things moving funny around the sun. Yeah, well, there's no way it takes twice the energy to compress a spring twice as much, right? I mean, come on, the argument's ludicrous. I pick up an elephant and I put him on the spring. It takes a certain amount of energy. If I want to double the compression of the spring, I just pick up another elephant and put him on the spring. There, I've doubled the compression of the spring. I didn't do 4 times the work. I just did twice as much work. I mean, it's just too fucking stupid. And that's what their physics says is real. That's the reality. There's twice the energy, the 4 times the energy in the twice as compressed spring. But there's no evidence that that's true. Well, I've already explained the mistake. I mean, it just has to do with the gravitational illusion. Okay, where 4 times the height in gravity is only twice the velocity. So that illusion makes them think, well, the distance is 4 times, so it must be 4 times the energy. And it's just stupid. I mean, it's just, really, I think a bunch of 13-year-olds could understand, oh, yeah, that's right, you're going faster doing that part, and then the slow part you're doing in the same amount of time, and the same amount of rain is hitting you. So, yes, you're only in the rain twice as long, so you only get twice as wet. It really doesn't matter how much distance you move, it just matters on how many raindrops you hit. So, they're saying, yes, wrong there, but it's okay. You need 4 elephants instead of 2. No, they're saying you need 4 times the energy. I don't know what they're saying about the elephant problem. They will not reply to the point. They say because the spring gets stiffer as I'm pushing it in, I have to be putting twice as much energy in because it's harder to push. Because they're not recognizing that the energy has to be in the same unit of time. Okay, I can't have the two elephants on the scale at different times. I have to have them on the scale at the same time. Yeah. So, they're just not getting why it seems those two things are in conflict, that it's harder to push a spring as you go deeper and deeper into the spring. But that's only harder because you're not doing the pushing in the same time. You're at every moment pushing with new pressure. At every moment you have to keep maintaining the pressure. There's not some weight. When you're pushing a spring, there's not some weight that's holding the spring compressed for you. So now it's easy to push. The first elephant already pushes the spring to a location. The new elephant just pushes the extra. It doesn't have to push any. It doesn't have to do what the first elephant's doing. The first elephant's already doing it. When you're pushing a spring, you have to keep pushing. You can't just put a weight there and say, there, it's already compressed, now I'll compress it some more. So that's the difference. You have to understand that every moment of time, you're producing all of the pressure. You aren't allowed to just let gravity do the work for you with an elephant sitting there. The elephant just sits there, gravity does the work for you, it pushes the spring, so it's doing half the work for you. You have to do all the work all the time when you're compressing a spring. But I'm just saying, this is physics, so these should be understandable points. People should be able to understand that, yes, if I'm pushing a spring, I have to keep pushing with all the pressure. I can't just, I can't take advantage of having something pushing on the spring for me and doing the work for me. Oh, God. But anyway, anybody should be able to understand the gravity argument. The gravity argument is so obvious. 9.8 meters per second. Obviously, the force happens in units of time. It doesn't happen in units of distance. Fuck. I shouldn't have to explain that to people who went to fucking college. Let's see what this Chris moron says. No, it takes 4 times more work to lift 2 elephants 2 feet. To lift 1 elephant 1 foot. Again, it depends on how fast you lift them. So you still just don't get it. It's a time question. If you lift them slower, you can make it take 10 million times more energy. You could use all the energy of all the nuclear power plants on Earth if you decide to lift the elephants really, really, really slowly. God, what idiots. Suppose you lift them all at the same rate. So again, if you lift them at the same, we already know it's a time-dependent force. The only force you're lifting is gravity. The elephant is just an amount of gravity. The mass is just equal to gravity. All right, so all you're lifting is the mass at a gravitational rate per second. Okay, so that's all you have in the equation. That's all there is. So it's a time-dependent force. It's mgt. Mass, okay, times the gravitational constant times the amount of time it takes to put it at that location. So twice the distance, twice the height, okay, location-wise. Obviously, if you shoot them, they're not going to go in the same speed. But if you move them at exactly the same velocity through the whole lifting process, then it will take twice as much energy to go twice as high. Because it'll take twice as long. Because you're going at the same fucking speed, you fucking idiot. Oh, God. Why are people evading your arguments? The lever argument is simple. to understand, even if you are not versed in physics. Yes, I've asked for 2 fucking years for one of these morons to draw a lever and explain how it works, how it does the 1.4 thing, how the energy the momentum disappears. And it disappears in extreme cases where if I put the bullet 1,000 times away on the lever from the fulcrum and the gun 1 unit of distance away on the fulcrum, that sometimes somehow I create this preposterous nonsense where if I move the bullet a little bit, I lose thousands of joules of energy, and if I move the gun a little bit, I make thousands of joules of free energy. Okay, let's see. So lift the elephants at 1 foot per second. I just pointed out, if you lift them at the same speed, 2 units of distance are going to be exactly the same as 1 unit of distance. It's just going to be twice as the distance. So it's going to be twice the time, twice the distance. Time and distance will be exactly the same if you're lifting them at the same speed. The whole point of making these comparisons is understanding that the faster you lift something, the less time you're in the gravity, the more efficient it will become. But obviously the faster you go up, it has to be at the same rate gravity takes your velocity. So if you shoot at 1,000,000 miles an hour, you shoot off a surface, you can't stop the object is the problem, you moron. So you'd have to use a bunch of energy to stop it at the 1 foot distance. So you have to match the velocity to the location you want to reach. But the point is the higher you shoot for the moon, okay? You want to just throw something off the earth and you want it to land on the moon. The amount of fuel you'll pay per foot is infinitesimally small compared to what it would cost you to lift the rocket 1 foot. You'd be using, almost as much energy to go 1 foot, okay, at a slow speed than it would take to go to the moon at the higher speed. All right, twice the time, twice the distance, twice the energy. Right, yes, we went over it so many fucking times, and it's just so fucking obvious. All the 2's are all over the place. 2, 2, 2. Twice the weight is a huge one. How could you possibly think twice the weight is 4 times the energy? It lands and it weighs twice as much when it lands. It lands on a scale and it weighs twice as much. How the fuck could you think twice as much weight is 4 times the energy? How can you think that? How do you think it's possible that it could dent 4 times the amount of stuff, it could smash 4 times the amount of stuff, it could do anything like 4 times the work when it only weighs twice as much? How can something weigh twice as much and do 4 times the work? I mean, it's just so goddamn stupid. I watched your video of underlying physics from 8 years. Well, don't watch something 8 years ago, please. I mean, do me a favor, okay? I mean, yes, this has been an evolving process. Shit. Your views have evolved a lot. Yeah, no, they haven't really evolved. They've just gotten more accurate, more precise, okay? The overall theme was the same. It's energy and matter. It's always been that argument. Okay, I'm interested in you playing a clip and walking us through how your views evolved from then to now. Why would I want to do that? I'm sorry you're interested in me going through the process of learning and showing you where, okay, I figured out that was a dead end. Oh, I figured out that was a dead end. Oh, I figured out that was a dead end. I don't really want to do that. Maybe that's fun for you. It's not going to be fun for me, because I'll just be thinking about all the time I wasted trying to make their physics work. And that's why there was always a problem, is because I took some of the shit they said seriously, and I said, I got to come up with an explanation for this, and I have to come up with an explanation for that. And I didn't realize there were no fucking experiments. They never proved any of this crap. And I kept trying to shove their crap into my physics, and that was what was breaking it. And so it wasn't until I got really clear of their crap that I started to realize, I don't have to figure out why it's 4 times the work anymore, because that's a lie. It's not 4 times the work. There's a reason the thing rolls 4 times the distance. Oh, okay. I don't have to say, I have to explain why it's doing 4 times the work. No, it's not doing 4 times the work. That's the simple explanation. But yeah, I really don't want to go through that. So what interests you people? Again, you're just demonstrating that fuck you people. You're just, What interests you should be the truth, okay? Not how you make truth, okay? The sausage machine really shouldn't be of interest. Just the nutritional value of the sausage is all you should be worried about. Which is shit. Oh, whatever. You could learn a lot from that. I'm just saying it's... I have done this to some extent. I mean, I have pointed out that it took me 10 years to figure out the two-slit experiment. And in hindsight, I'm like, God damn, you fucking idiot. Why did it take you 10 years to finally figure out the catch? Okay, the fact is that when they were saying the young double slit experiment, it wasn't even the double slit experiment. I mean, I should have been able to figure that out. I should have been able to look at the pattern and say, that's the single slit. Why are you calling it the double slit pattern when it's the single slit pattern? Why are you doing that? I mean, I who wants to go through all that? I mean, my original diagram was, I had to sit there and account for things. So I had... there was a period where I had photons did have a spin, and I figured out all that crap was completely unnecessary. I mean, I originally started with charge. Charge was, something had to spin left and something had to spin right and all this kind of crap, and, But, yeah, I mean, that was 10 years ago. I mean, I really fixed charge relatively quickly. Yes, there does need to be more response videos. That's what there needs to be. Actual response videos. I've made a ton of points in this video. None of them will be addressed by any of these fucking shit talkers, these name callers. Okay, they won't actually play the videos from the last 2 days where I go through the whole MV squared thing and then I go through the whole photon two slits experiment thing. Those are good videos. They won't reply to them. They won't create any capacity to have a counter argument because they'll make no counter arguments to anything stated in the videos. The fact is, the young double slit math doesn't work. It doesn't produce a double slit pattern. That's just a fact. They either acknowledge it or dispute it. It's stated as a fact. They can either demonstrate how I'm talking shit or Thomas Young was talking shit. But one of them's true. One of us is wrong. Yes, I have done my job. That's what my job is to make the argument. I've made it as well as I can. Yes, I'm getting snarkier and more intolerant as time passes because, yes, it's clear they are not going to play fair. They're not going to allow this argument to take place. Yeah, it's just ironic that Pirro said he's willing to talk to the other whack jobs in the Slander Dairy Club. Okay, but he's not willing to make a response video to my videos. Yeah. I mean, they just prove they're cowards. I mean, the Iron Gosling guy has made this contention. Okay, the spring, it requires 4 times the energy to compress the spring. I made this simple counter argument that it doesn't take 4 times the energy to put the second elephant on the scale. The second elephant is only twice the energy to do. So it's a decisive argument. There's no way around it. He has to concede, okay, I get what you're saying. That physical fact seems undeniable. There's no way I can say it's 4 times the energy when obviously it doesn't take 4 times the energy. What about coding your own physics? I already have the simulator. Damn it. DreamWorks is free to use and offers good, easy coding. Well, it says it's easy. You say it's easy to code thousands of little force bits, okay, interacting with matter bits. Okay, I'm saying it's a little more challenging than you think. But whatever. I have the simulation. I've shown it in the videos. It's working quite well. It needs a couple of the little things aren't happening as reliably as they should. So I'm going to wait to release it until it's more perfectly doing exactly what it's supposed to do, following the 2 + 2 + 2 rules. 2 + 2 + 3 rules. Okay. Yeah, there's 3 interactions. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, how can there be debate? I raised a valid point, and rather than address it, he called me names and repeated the same line about gravity happens in units of time. So where did you make a valid point? I'm sorry, I didn't see any valid point at all. I answered your question. If you lift them the same rate, the same velocity, all right, it's just a simple equation. mg t. How much time are you lifting them? How long does it take to get them to wherever they're going? Period. All right. And again, I don't care about name calling, so go ahead and name call. Where name calling isn't what bothers me about their videos. The videos are bad because they don't have counter arguments in them. They're not counter arguing anything I said. They're misparaphrasing me and arguing straw man. They don't play my fucking video and respond to it in any coherent way. Do they respond to any of the arguments? Again, how many times have I said, just draw the lever and explain to me how it works? If you fucking know how levers work and they create free momentum, then go ahead and explain to me how they do that. I do a decent job of making sense of your arguments, but I've tried a couple of times to make sense of your double slit explanation and can't follow it. I don't know what there is to follow. What is so complicated? I can make a list of questions if you want. Yes, fine. Post them in the comments section, okay? Not in the chat. Take your time and think about what you're saying, okay? Because frankly, I just don't know how you can't understand. Quantum of energy at a frequency. That's the frequency of the light. How? Here's a quantum, here's a quantum, here's a quantum. They have a distance between them. That's their frequency. Okay? They head towards a surface. One of those little bits might get deflected by an electron. One of them. The other two just keep going in their right directions. But the fact is that we know all of the fringes are made out of photons that don't go straight through. So we know that the one that got deflected is going somewhere. Well, on the other slit, there's also a piece that got deflected. And it ends up deflecting in the same location, okay? And it has the right frequency again. It comes at the right time. And that's all you're really saying is that I sent a little bit from this one, I sent a little bit from that one, and now the frequency has been recreated. And that's all I have to do to have a photon, is have a frequency of quanta hit a location. But again, it's more complicated because the fact is that single electrons don't absorb photons, okay? I mean, photons are big. The pattern is big, okay? The polarization of the photon is like the wavelength. It's 1,000 atoms across. So when a photon hits a surface, it's about energy hitting, and then energy hitting again, and then energy hitting again, like strafing a surface. And so the first bit of energy hits, and it creates movement in the electrons. Now as the electron's moving, another bit hits and moves the electron a little faster, and then a third bit hits and moves the electron a little faster. That's the that's the photoelectric effect. That's the electricity created, and that's how we measure the existence of a photon, is that we measure electricity. So, I mean, but whatever, fine. I can make the video for you. I can make a tutor video based on whatever it is that's hanging you up and says and you can't follow along. The simple argument is that the surfaces, there's energy going in little bits. It hits the surfaces and gets scattered in all directions, and there's a 50-50 chance you put it back, the scatter back in phase. I don't see what's complicated about that explanation. All right. My valid point is that is the reason it takes 4 times more energy to compress a spring twice as much is that you have to lift twice the weight, twice the distance. Well, that's just nonsense. I don't lift the elephants twice the distance. I lift them the same distance and put them on the scale. So that's just absolute crap. That's 4 times the weight. How? How is that a valid point? I mean, if you're going to call your points valid when they're not valid, it's not valid in any way. 4 times the energy to compress a spring twice as much as that you have to lift the weight twice the distance? Twice the distance is only twice the distance. This distance plus this distance is only twice the distance. So what? Twice the distance is somehow 4 times the energy? Says you. Lifting this battery, and I drop it. Lift the battery and drop it. There, the end. Twice the weight, twice the work. I don't care about the name calling. I would prefer there was an actual debate, though. Yeah, well, again, the debate has to be within the boundaries of reason. Again, so somebody's saying it's 4 times the work to do this. I roll that onto the scale, and then I roll that onto the scale. He's saying that's 4 times the work. This is 4 times this. It can't be 4 times that. It's impossible. The elephants are compressing the spring twice as much. What are you talking about? So if you aren't lifting them twice the distance, they end up lower than they started, so that's where the extra energy came from. The scale is very stiff. There's no distance difference, okay? The scale, it's a really well-made spring. The tiny little difference, you know, the spring requires very little distance to move, so that's just absolute crap. I'm lifting one, putting it on the scale. I roll it, like I said, I can roll it onto the scale. I use this energy, roll it onto the scale, I roll that one onto the scale, it's twice the energy. No way around the argument, really. I mean, the antics they go to try to sit there and defend this nonsense, when it's obviously indefensible nonsense. We can just say they're not individual things, okay? The 2 elephants are Siamese twins. So I have a Siamese twin elephant, okay, that's 2 elephants stuck together, and 1 elephant. All right, it's only going to take me twice the energy to move the Siamese twin elephant onto the scale. Twice the weight, twice the work, period. All right, the elephants are compressing the spring to, okay, that's where we were. I mean, we could use it with an expanding spring and your argument completely goes backwards because I have to lift the second elephant less height. You know, if we're using an expanding spring, I could have the elephants at this location and I could say, well, the first elephant had to lift to this location to get it to come down here, but the second elephant, I only have to go with the same height. I don't even have to do hardly any work at all to get it onto the scale. So if I just make it an expanding spring, your argument's defeated. That's a useless. I don't even understand why this would be a meaningful question. What if you wanted to repeat the experiment with a second scale? I don't know. That's supposed to mean something to somebody? No, that doesn't mean anything. You would have to lift the elephant back up to the starting height. Yeah, so what? Doesn't mean that the second elephant weighs 4 times as much. I thought you once said, oh, let's see what the other one says. Both of them weigh the same amount. Damn, does not that burn your coils? I don't know what that even means. You seem resistant to follow the line of thought. Yes, I have no interest in doing anything other than the simple calculation. If I put the first elephant on the scale and the scale goes down, it means I don't have to lift the second elephant as high. How can the second elephant be 4 times the amount of work? Somehow the scale is going to do something. It's going to be indicating 4 times something. I'm quadrupling because of that second increment of pushing on the scale. Okay, the first elephant pushes the scale. The scale only pushes twice as far when I add the second elephant. Okay, so somehow it's a magical thing. 4 happens. This only has 1, but 2 of them has 4. That's your mathematical quandary. All right, and I'm saying kind of obviously, I lift the first elephant onto the scale. That's an amount of work. The scale goes down a little tiny bit. Well, the fact is I only have to lift the second elephant a little bit shorter distance, and it's still going to be twice the weight. So it doesn't make any sense. Sorry, you're not making any sense. Let's see. I thought you once said weight is momentum. Duh. Weight is everything. Weight is force. Weight is energy. Weight is everything. Everything that causes something to move in the universe applies a weight to it. It has to be a mass and it has to be moving. That's weight. Weight is mass moving. That's momentum. Yes, that's what weight is. But if so, how can matter bits inherently weigh more than force bits? They don't inherently weigh anything. Okay, besides the fact that there are a quantity of mass. So if I just said there's 4 bits in the universe moving the speed of light, and then there's dead ones that lost their speed of light. So now they're just 4 bits, and they're stuck in a little clump called an electron, or stuck in a little clump called a proton. And that those dead bits don't move any speed until they're hit by a force bit. But I really don't want to do where did the electrons come from physics. Because that's for absolute trolly morons. Okay, nobody's going to answer those questions, retard. When they don't have any momentum. So again, they get the momentum by the force banging into them and pushing them. I've explained that so many times. The first elephant does more work as it helps the second elephant push the scale down. Whatever that. I'm not even going to... fuck that. What are you talking about? I put something on the scale. What are you talking about? There, it weighs something. How can it do more work when I put this on the scale? How is that 4 times the work? Again, I'm just saying, you realistically think it was 4 times the effort to do this. This is only 1 unit of energy. 1 event. 1 amount of work. I do this. You're saying that's 3 units of work. Because now the deflection in the scale is twice as much, and therefore I have 4 times the energy. I'm saying, I can't make any sense out of that. This is 1 unit of work. It took 1 unit of work. I did 1 unit of work. This now represents 4 units of work. 4 units of energy. But I only did 1 unit of work. How are you not understanding? Alright, the first elephant, okay, we already did that. The work you are doing lifting the weights up from the desk to the scale is massively more work than it takes to compress the spring. Well, I just showed you it's not massively more. I could just put the batteries on a ledge and I could just give them a velocity. Boom. They're on the scale now. Then I just give this one a little velocity. Oh. There, it's on the scale now. It doesn't matter how I apportion the work to do the work. We're just saying I'm going to do the same thing twice. I'm going to take a weight and I'm going to put it on the scale. It doesn't matter whether I drop it. It doesn't matter how I do it. The fact is you're saying when there's 1 on the scale, it's only 1 unit of energy. Somehow when there's 2, there's magically now 4. That's the part that makes no sense. And it doesn't matter whether I roll them on, I drop them on, I throw them on. It doesn't matter how I get them on. These 2 events are going to be the same work. Oh, God. Again, they don't have any evidence. They have no evidence. It takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast, yet they keep defending, keep defending, keep defending, keep defending, keep defending. They can't let it go. It's an obvious mistake in physics history. It's 9.8 meters per second. It's about how long you are in the force that will decide how much force you're resisting or how much force you're collecting. Obviously. Twice the time, twice the force. All right. I'm trying not to use the term potential energy. Well, frankly, it's baby talk, so it's good not to use it because I worry it'll trigger you. Is there a term you prefer? I know there's no term here. I've made it simple enough. I've pointed out to you it's the same work. Whether I drop it, whether I roll it, whether I lift it, I'm doing exactly the same amount of work to create an event, which is battery on scale. You're saying when I did it the first time, it's only this much energy that I get out of it. And then when I did the same exact thing the second time, somehow it's now 4 times the energy. And I'm saying that's silly. And if it were true, there would be free energy. Obviously, work is energy. Do we agree that heat is energy? Maybe eventually we could agree that moving matter is energy. Matter moving is energy. It's stored it, it's collected it, it's acquired it. The object now has the capacity to force other things to move. And how will it force them? It will use the force it's collected. Well, it is relevant, so you can say it's not relevant, but it's hugely relevant to their argument about the 5-ton train getting converted into a 10-ton train. They're claiming that because I drop extra weight on a train, that somehow half the energy of the train is lost through this magical heat and vibrations and sounds and other stuff I did without using any momentum. So I didn't use up any of the momentum of the train, but somehow I made a whole bunch of things happen in the universe, and I didn't have to use any momentum to do it. That's the theory you're defending. Momentum has to have energy. Whatever. Baby talk. Well, the way you said it is baby talk, frankly. You should say that motion has to be caused by energy. Something can't have a velocity. Like the Earth has a velocity around the sun. Where did it get it from? The point is, it didn't get it from nowhere. It got it from somewhere. Everything that's moving acquired energy from something. Some interaction, some event took place that gave it its velocity, its condition. Okay? It's not a magical force. You can't make it. You can't destroy it. But momentum isn't energy, says you. Okay? I mean, momentum is weight. Weight is energy. It's just that simple. Pressure is energy. Anything that applies pressure to another object is applying energy to the object. It's no other way to look at it. Pressure is weight. Momentum is weight. So the whole thing fits. You're just arguing for the sake of arguing. I don't know. I mean, to me, this is like one of the dumbest questions ever asked. If electrons are dead force bits clumped together, how are they hit? What do you think they're in? They're in three-dimensional space. They have a location. Everything in the universe that has a location is going to get hit by a certain amount of force all the time. Every bazillionth of a second of its existence, it's going to be hit by force all the fucking time. There's photons coming through space that have traveled billions of light years, and they're going to hit me right in between my eyeball here. I'm going to get hit constantly by forces that look like they're heading right for me. And every single place I go in the universe, there's going to seem to be a whole bunch of force that's heading right for me. What do you mean, how does it get hit? Duh! It's in a universe full of bits of force flying around at the speed of light. How does it not get hit would be the question. How could I possibly get a moment's peace in such a universe? And the whole point is, you can't get a moment's peace. You are constantly being hit by something. Oh, dumbasses. What is dropping weight on a train experiment? Oh, I'm sorry. Physics girl experiment. This is a classic experiment. You take you take the illustration. They've done the experiment with carts. You take a cart. You let the cart go at a velocity. Say the velocity is 10, okay, and the cart weighs 5. And then you drop another 5. So you double its mass by just gracefully increasing its mass. And now it goes 1/2 the velocity, exactly 1/2, 5. So you've conserved the momentum. But the kinetic energy, you lost half the kinetic energy. Okay, because of your v squared formula, you lost half the energy of the train. You now have a 10-ton train going 5 miles an hour, and that is half the value of, you need 2 10-ton trains going 5 miles an hour to do the same work as the one 5-ton train going 10 miles an hour. That's the implication of your equation. So the simple truth is that the experiment comes out exactly this way. I have the thing going 10 miles an hour, it weighs 5, I put another 5 on it, and I end up with a speed coming out that is 99% consistent with the momentum being conserved. I only lose a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the momentum. And yet I lost half the energy. The kinetic energy. Obviously fucking silly. I'm surprised you haven't heard of it. I mean, frankly, it's the physics girl. Go look up physics girl experiment on my videos and you'll find dozens of them where I'm pointing out how can it lose no momentum, essentially, and yet do twice, half the energy of the train amount of work. So you didn't lose any momentum, but you did a ton of work in the universe. You bent things, you made sparks, you made sounds, you made all this stuff, and yet you didn't use any momentum to do it. Not fucking possible. That's why heat is relevant to the conversation. You said force bits don't hit other ones. Yeah, we're saying other ones that are moving. So obviously if I'm making an electron, obviously the force bits hit the matter bits, okay? So I was trying to just explain to you how you could make matter out of something, okay? That would give it mass. Okay, the fact that mass exists in the universe is not something I should need to explain. Okay, it's just one of those axiomatic facts. Okay, if you don't want to believe in electrons and protons, don't believe them. You don't want to believe in any elemental physics until somebody shows you a fucking picture of it, fine. You have to model this shit. Okay, we're not going to ever have an experiment where we're going to see the invention of the universe. So just fuck you. Okay, if you can't accept any axioms as being just facts. There is a thing called matter, okay, a configuration of an atomic particle, electron and proton. There's stuff called force moving the speed of light. If you can't accept that as a beginning axiom, then fuck off, okay? I can't have a conversation with you. Let's see, what's the dropping weight on the train experiment? Okay, we already did that. All right, yeah, so we haven't got anything new. Look, it really is the same experiment they do with the air carts, right, where they make them inelastic. So they take the 5-mass cart, they move it 10, then they have it Velcro to another 5-mass cart, and then they end up with a 10-mass cart going half the velocity. So again, it's an experiment that really has been done so many different ways. And the simple truth is that when those two carts connect to each other by the kinetic energy theory, half the energy is lost. That is half the motion energy of the mass. So it realistically could be a 5-ton train. The energy of a 5-ton train going 5 miles an hour, that energy is essentially lost. A huge amount of energy. And yet you have exactly the same momentum. Well, close to it. Okay, not exactly the same, but you have 99.5% of the momentum is conserved, and yet you lost half the energy. That's the paradoxical, nonsensical, that can't possibly be real physics truth. That doesn't make any fucking sense. And they'll never do the experiment collecting all of this lost energy, because it would be a free energy experiment, frankly. You can't have the same momentum as the outcome and then claim you did a bunch of work. You can't do work without using something's momentum. I understand the inelastic cart thing. Inelastic just means doesn't conserve KE, right? No, inelastic means it sticks. Becomes one, shares completely. The opposite scenario is the heavy cart, okay, where you make free energy, theoretically, if you could convert heavy, if you could do the Newton's cradle, where you could take the heavy object going slowly and put all of the energy in the small object and have it go fast, you would make free energy, like the lever argument. So, I mean, frankly, it's a silly theory. If I go from heavy things to light things, I make free energy and conserve the momentum. If I go from light things to heavy things, I lose energy, by your theory. So that's how stupid it is. It's a free energy, free destruction of energy theory. It doesn't have energy conservation. It doesn't work. When the two Velcroed tennis balls, oh please, two Velcroed springs, that doesn't make much sense, but whatever, hit each other head on at the same speed, 99% of the energy is lost. Well, again, it's not lost. We all know that the oscillations taking place inside the balls will be extreme. The balls might even rotate. They might do something else. So this is just the clay argument. I banged two clumps of clay into each other and it looks like nothing happened. Well, obviously something happened. The clay deformed. Lots of things happened. Lots of energy was lost to heat and other forms of movement that aren't visual. So the fact that there's no visual energy doesn't mean there's no energy, blah, 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 blah. Lost means it has to go somewhere. I just explained to you. You don't lose any momentum, and yet you bent the metal, you created sparks, you created signals that they heard in Alpha Centauri, you created radio waves, you created photons, you created all kinds of energy, all kinds of little bits flying around in space. How can you do that without using your momentum to do it? How can a bowling ball hit the pins and the pins fly off and the bowling ball doesn't go any slower? That can't happen. You can't move the pins without using something's momentum to move the pins. Ugh. So again, let's just understand the context. Here he is, trying to defend. He has no evidence. It takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. 350 years to come up with a piece of evidence, no evidence. All they have is, well, you have to go 4 times higher in gravity. Okay, given. I roll a ball on a surface. Yes, it goes 4 times further with only twice the velocity. But the obvious argument is if you measure the velocity, you'll see that it's 3/4 of the distance before it gets half the velocity. So obviously in this big 3 section, it's doing the same amount of work that it's doing in the 1 section. The 1 section going very slow is the same friction as the 3 section going very fast. The same weight on the surface is being applied. If you put a scale under them, the 3 section going fast will weigh the same as the 1 section of time going slowly. So those are all things we can understand. And then dropping round things into clay. That's it. That's all they have to defend this wacky, silly, nonsensical theory. All the other experiments point to conservation of momentum and that momentum does work. Okay. And it's all because it says 9.8 meters per second. And they keep saying, well, how many feet did it travel? So in spite of the fact that it says overtly 9.8 meters per second, it's a time-dependent force, they keep saying, how far did it go? So it's twice the weight, it's twice the speed, and it's twice the time, and they keep saying 4. And here he is just belligerently, just keeps trying to defend something that on its face doesn't make any sense. That's easily understood to be, oh, you're just being fooled by gravity. Oh, a simple little fact. Okay, that it drops from 4 times the height, it only weighs twice as much, it's only going twice as fast, and it only takes twice as long. And you'll pretend that equals 4. I mean, I did the point with the gravity well, okay? It just illustrates the point. There's something with gravity. I'm going to fly by it. I'm going to fly by it. It's just about how fast I go. If I go really slow, I crash. I go really fast, I barely get bent at all. It's a time-dependent force. It's not about the distance. It's about how much time you're in the distance. Okay, let's see what it says here. Where does it say per second? I don't know, 9.8 meters per second. I have to say where it says per second. It says it right there, per second. That's what Newton said. That's what everybody agrees, that it happens in units of time. It's just silly to say something else. What do you mean? I have to defend the idea that it says per second and the exact small g is 9.8 meters per second? All right, for the units of acceleration due to gravity. I don't know. So I mean, there's your incredulity has no bounds, correct? What are you, just Farley? I mean, what point is there? You're going to argue that it's not 9.8 meters per second? Isn't the gravitational effects at this location on the surface of Earth that it's 9.8 meters per second of force? Fuck you. It doesn't matter whether you square it. It's in time units, you retard. Squaring it just makes it more ludicrous. 9.8 meters squared? No, after 2 seconds, it's not 9.8 meters per squared. It's only 19.6 meters per second. It's only 9.8 times 9.8. 9.8 times 2. It's not 9.8 times 9.8. So what are you talking about? How does the squaring change it from being in timed units, not foot units, you dumb shit? It's not 9.8 meters per foot of force. It's 9.8 meters per second of force. Oh, what desperate nonsense. You do understand that if it's 9.8 meters per second squared, that means I square the 9.8. You do understand that, don't you? It's a rate. There's absolutely no point in saying about a rate. 60 miles an hour per hour. It's already per hour. Why do I am saying per hour twice? How does that make it any better? It's idiotic. There's absolutely no rational reason to think saying per second could mean anything. Every rate happens at a unit of time. That's why it says 9.8 meters per second. because it happens every unit of time that you allow it to happen. But those units of time are a specific number. It happens 4 seconds, or it happens 10 seconds, or it happens 50 seconds. You multiply how many seconds it is times what the rate is. That's how you get the right answer. 9.8 times 2. 2 seconds is 19.6. 3 seconds would be whatever, 40 blah blah blah. 4 seconds would be blah 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 blah. Right? It's just multiplying 9 times 8 times 1, or 9 times 8 times 2, or 9 times 8 times 3. It's not 9 times 8 times 9 times 8. You dumb fucker. Well, fuck you. Again, you're doing the second derivative of distance. I'm just saying, it's in units of time, fucker. You can't escape. It's 9.8 units per second. The amount of gravity is in second units. Not foot units, not meter units, not distance units. Second units. Nobody's saying you square the 9.8. Then what are you squaring, you dumb fuck? Are you squaring the number of seconds? Well, 2 seconds is now 4 seconds, and 3 seconds is now 9 seconds. Does that make any sense to you? Oh, I just can't believe how silly these arguments get. This is just absolute baby talk nonsense. There's no rational way to say, well, because it can happen a numerous amount of seconds, because it could happen 1 second or it could happen 500 seconds, I'm going to say second squared. How is squaring the seconds indicate the rate can happen at any number of seconds? How is that mathematically coherent? It's plainly not mathematically coherent. Oh yeah, I'm not squaring anything, except for putting the square there. I'm not squaring anything. What a liar. I mean, you cannot use the squared symbol and say, I'm not squaring anything, when of course the equation is completely dependent on you squaring things. Oh, what a pathetic liar. Okay, it must be Farley. You're just making up arguments now, right? Let's see if I can make up another argument. Let's see if I can trigger him. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not squaring anything. I put a squared symbol in, but it doesn't mean I'm squaring anything. Humans. All right, so winding down. Anything else? Or I will be on my way. There's more proof. Belligerent. These people are not stupid. They're belligerently stupid. Okay? They're not just accidentally ignorant. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I misunderstood. No. They know they have no evidence. They don't care that they don't have any evidence, and they're just going to keep preaching their Jesus theory. They haven't seen God. They haven't talked to God. They haven't anything. They don't have to see anything. They don't have to do any of that to believe. Their mommy told them so. Mickey Aikaku told me so, so it must be true. Yes. Well, I wouldn't call them fellow bugs. No, it's a ugly ass bug. It's a lightning bug. Its larvae. That is a malicious, nasty motherfucker. It has its head is on this thing, and it's like worse than a Tyrannosaurus. It is just such a horrible bug. It's worse than a praying mantis. It's insidiously awful. Lightning bug, it seems like such a nice little friendly little bug, but no, its larvae is nasty shit. I don't believe in God. It doesn't matter. This is just this is your version of religion, is to fuck physics in the ass. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you're screwing Jesus or you're screwing this wooey crap you believe in. that is unevidenced and is just a fable. It's just a story they've told you, and you believe the story. And there's no reason to believe the story. There's no good reason. There's no MV squared. And again, it was invented by an overtly, passionately religious kook who basically said Newton and Descartes. Descartes was a Jesuit, for fuck's sake, and Newton was believed in angels. I mean, he called them two atheists. You know, that's who invented the physics you're defending. It's just woo from the start, and it's just a bunch of wooists who are defending it because it has no evidence. There is no video of your Jesus. You're 4 times the energy. You haven't got any experimental evidence to defend it, and you just keep puking it on people. All right, is there any realistic experiment that would change your mind? Oh yeah, yes. Just to show me the 4 times the energy that comes off the train. Where did I mean, if you're going to say that the cart loses half of its energy, just show me where the energy went. Show me the heat. Show me the melted stuff. Show me all the stuff that it would happen if you had these amounts of joules of energy destroyed or disappear. Show me where they disappeared to, because you're not going to come up with it. Show me the 8-pound bowling ball knocking down twice as many pins as the 16-pound ball going half the speed. Show me one experiment where you collect this stupid energy. Show me the bullet moving more atoms in the universe, giving more energy to atoms in the universe than the gun's recoil. So show me that the bullet has 1,000 times more energy, that it can make 1,000 times more actions take place in the universe than the recoiling gun. Show me the 1,000 atoms going 1 mile an hour doing less work than the 1 atom going 1,000 miles an hour. Show me anything to indicate that's the truth. Show me the spaceship being turned by your kinetic energy. Show me the bullet leaving the spaceship and the spaceship turning radically because it's thousands of joules. And I throw the recoiling gun out the other side, and it's only 1 joule. So I turn 1,000th as much. Show me somewhere where this bullshit theory physically works. And they'll change my mind. Yes. Show me a piece of evidence. Show me the lever only shooting the object. Okay, twice the distance, half the mass. Show me it only leaving with 1.4 the energy. Brozo tried to do that and it didn't work. .4 the velocity. Sorry, off topic. What's off topic? I mean, it really annoys me when people type, sorry, off topic, and then 3 minutes from now I'll get to the off topic part. Oh, thanks. You're warning me you're off topic? I don't know what you're doing. I don't see a previous comment by you that was off topic. No, I don't see anything. So, what the fuck? Sorry, off topic. I don't know what that means. Fuck. There's really just no hope in communicating. Or, oh, maybe my comment didn't go through. Yeah, apparently it didn't. I don't see it anywhere. So it must have had something in it to make it verboten. Maybe you put a link in it. You're not allowed to do that. So anyway, so irrelevancy. Sorry, irrelevant. Okay. So yes, okay. You've accomplished some irrelevancy. All right. So I'm just going to get the hell out of here because I have no hope that you people will do anything useful. There's just no point. The belligerence is strong with you people. Anyway, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot and blah 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 blah. And, oh, it's just so depressing.